Hello everyone, Pineaaronapple here with something different from usual. Yeah, sure, it's Doctor Who, so not too different, but this is from a different realm entirely. The Curse of Fatal Death is a comic relief Red Nose special, and probably the most well-known spoof of Doctor Who, with many famous actors, a commentary on tropes, and with connections that stretch even as far as New Who and audios. Originally a 4-part story, it was edited into a 2-part story for home releases, and can now be found online, even on YouTube, along with Dawn French and Lenny Henry sketches, which we could take a look at another time. The special was directed by John Henderson, who was credited for a BAFTA the story received. And it was written by Stephen Moffat, who any Sherlock or Doctor Who fan would know, having worked on, and even at a time ran New Who between 2005 and 2017. It's been a while since I've seen this, and back in the day it was the funniest shit on YouTube me and a mate could find. Along with early YouTube Smosh and Mario Warfare, another web series that I might take a look at in the future. So without further ado, let's get into The Curse of Fatal Death, or known originally as Doctor Who and the Curse of Fatal Death. The spoof starts with its own version of the Doctor Who title sequence, taking some of the diamond reminiscent of Tom Baker's era and our 9th Doctor's face along with a nicely animated TARDIS. Our 9th Doctor is played by comedian Rowan Atkinson, known commonly for Blackadder and Mr. Bean.
Oh, Teddy.
And then we find out this Doctor is being spied on by the Master, played by Jonathan Pryce, who has a long list of credits, but has been featured in popular franchises like G.I. Joe and Pirates of the Caribbean. I love the detail they put into this special. The TARDIS is looking good, even if the central column is a bit janky. But that adds to the spoof nature of the piece, especially the green hue of the Master's TARDIS, which I think is preferable to Ainley's TARDIS, who they just painted the walls black to denote evil. Of course, like any good villain, the Master mugs and monologues, but is constantly heard by the Doctor. A simple yet effective joke.
You know, if you're going to spy on me, you really should turn the speaker off.
My dear Doctor, after our many centuries of conflict, naturally I wished you to know that your certain death is now certain.
The Doctor has some news for the Master and asks to meet him on Turstris, a planet referenced in both the main show and the audio dramas. And the Master hams it up more, really playing to Jonathan Pryce's strengths. I'm almost not sure who's more ridiculous with this look, him or the more flamboyant Eric Roberts. The Doctor and basic companion template, Emma, played by Julia Sawalha, who was considered for a companion role in a cancelled series of original Who, and her father being in a couple Big Finish audios. It's always interesting to see these connections, but I'm not sure whether they make Big Finish or the BBC in general look more incestuous. Rowan Atkinson pulls off a parody of classic Doctor Who name-dropping and expositing quite well, with a passable fart joke, before the two goodies are stuck to the wall by the Master and his dodgy CGI. And this ends up with quite a funny use of time travel. Both the writing and acting here is pretty good as they constantly one-up the other, claiming to have gone back in time over and over again, changing the other's plans. Not something that would fit as a mainstay in the mainline show, but does as an interesting piss take of the genre. These actors do well to fit in character. I would say take this seriously, but it is a spoof.
We don't do that here.
We get to hear the Doctor's reason for this meeting, and with a nice dig on the BBC's overuse of quarries as alien planets, announces that he's getting married to Emma, an unfortunate marker of things to come, as the new show constantly tries to set up love interests with few working, between Rose, Martha, Clara, Amy that one time she was really horny.
Listen to me, I am 907 years old. Do you understand what that means?
It's been a while.
Yeah, no.
River, Yaz, Marilyn Monroe, and if I keep going, we're going to be here all day. But something alike to this, Emma does remind me a little of Charlotte Pollard, which is strange considering Turstris was mentioned in the penultimate episode of her first arc. The Master once again plans to go back in time to attack the Doctor, but of course the tables are turned, and he spends 300 years climbing back through a sewer? And it's here in this ridiculous turn of events, I noticed that while gaudy, the music is actually quite fitting of the special. At least up until this point. It's reminiscent of the classic series music, but isn't god-awful, to make a joke at the expense of the music before it. The Master returns with some classic-style Daleks, who are apparently here voiced by Roy Skelton, who's done voice work on the classic series since 1966, voicing both Cybermen, Daleks, and others on multiple occasions, adding a nice sense of authenticity. The Dalek's plunger is also made fun of, as the Master has had a hand replaced with one, and doesn't know what to do with it. The Master insinuates sex with a slug, and once again, predictably falls down the hole. It's by this point the joke gets a little old, but the performances do well to keep you engaged until things change. 625 years is the next figure said by the Master, before a Dalek mistakenly knocks him in again, leading him to come back with a walking frame, as Nine and Emma run down the same corridor multiple times, before running into a terrible shot of a flock of Daleks, or as the collective noun, an extermination of Daleks. Ending part 1 of the sketch. Part 2 starts less than a minute before the last one finished, and once we're caught up, we hard cut to the two of them tied up, and rightly make some jokes at the show's expense, since for all the yelling of exterminate the Daleks have done, it took almost 50 years for them to kill a doctor, and points out the over-reliance on glossing over details and leaving explanations of some concepts for later, sometimes never. It doesn't happen an awful lot in the show, but certainly could feel like it sometimes, and has even happened recently, using bi-generation as an example, which was something they just said kind of happened and they didn't explain upon at all, which was one of my gripes in the giggle. The Master appears and, yeah, I may be a bit juvenile, but this is fucking hilarious. The Master has been augmented by the Daleks again, and now has two of their bumps, as he calls them, planted on his chest. They did the unthinkable. They gave the Master tits, something that writer Stephen Moffat will do in the main show around 15 years later. The Master strangely compares himself to Emma chest-wise,
and operate as etheric beam locators at a distance of up to 20,000 light years. They're also extremely firm.
What are you trying to say?
Oh, nothing.
and once again, the Doctor waves away the plot by saying he'll explain later. Obviously, the Daleks will kill the Master once he's finished, so the Doctor tries to warn him and team up. And in a surprisingly clever punchline, to have bribed the Architect to trap each other, both of them must have spoken perfect Terceran, meaning speaking with farts. And as the Master pointed out, the Daleks have no noses. Sure, it's not very creative and pretty juvenile, but the way they reintegrated a detail like that is pretty astounding, especially for what this is. I love it, no matter how both stupid and clever it can be at the same time. And as Nine makes this unpleasant face, the Daleks get a bit of the joke action.
Could I be tied to a different chair?
Silence!
Why do you have chairs on a Dalek spaceship anyway?
We will explain later.
The Doctor gets the message across, but gets shot in the process. And apparently, look, it's just a bunch of mumbo-jumbo. Here, I'll play it.
This tectonic beam controller will now not only explode, it will implode. We're doomed.
Nine says his goodbyes in fart and regenerates into 10, played by Richard E. Grant, also known as the Quite Handsome Doctor. And strangely, this is not the only time he's played the Doctor. His time in the role being another thing we'll have to check out on the channel at some point.
Result, cute, sexy, and lick the mirror handsome. I remember you, don't I?
And you still fear me, Doctor?
You're the camp one.
I'm not camp.
Oh, yeah. Nice tits.
For his screen time, he's fine. A little too horny, though. But as they try to escape, the Daleks try to appeal to the Doctor's better nature. But he immediately dies, turning into 11, played by Jim Broadbent, also known as the Shy Doctor. He can be and has been funny in other things, but I don't care much for him in this, even if he gets a few good lines. But he predictably dies again, becoming Hugh Grant, or the Handsome Doctor. So we have a Quite Handsome Doctor and a handsome one. Who thought it was a good idea to throw Jim Broadbent in there, and then start a dick measuring competition between Hugh Grant and a guy literally named Richard? Surely they could have come up with a better difference to comment on. Well, I suppose Hugh Grant and Richard E. Grant is enough. Oh, Jesus, they're both Grants as well. Predictably, he is immediately killed again, and for the first time in history, the Daleks honour their word. But the Master has come to give the bad news. The energy he was hit with will kill him properly. Or just turn him into Joanna Lumley. After a fake-out and a strange speech from Emma, and even with the Master mourning him and taking his place as a hero. Even the Daleks doing the same, which is just strange to see. Emma says the never cruel or cowardly line that I love, Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi using it well. It's just strange hearing it in this first, unless it was said in classic show and I don't remember. Now Joanna Lumley and her excessive cleavage is the female Doctor, but unfortunately Emma doesn't support trans rights and puts the wedding off. We get a vibrator joke, and then, oh Jesus. They ship her and the Master, and they walk off set, just as Emma must have since she disappeared. Ending the episode, and afterward is a good The Making of documentary, which is both interesting and funny in its own right. If you found this interesting, I'd recommend you check that out. So that was The Curse of Fatal Death. And it's a classic. Yeah, some bits are dated or go a bit far, but I have to commend that even when the jokes lasted too long or felt a little bit out of place, it never did that as bad as Family Guy, so that's certainly a plus.
You owe Doctor Who an apology.
Even though it's a spoof, the actors mostly take themselves quite seriously, and that adds to the authenticity of the story. If they were just fucking around, it wouldn't feel as meticulous, as it references and makes light of the show. References itself between parts, Stephen Moffat's writing really lending itself to it. And while the second part is good, and the actors they brought in to play the Doctors are funny, it does get a little grating as they roll out, Richard E. Grant being a bit too up himself, and Jim Broadbent was being pathetic by design, but that doesn't lend itself well to the task at hand. So I'll give The Curse of Fatal Death a 6 out of 10. A good watch once in a while for a Doctor Who fan, or a nice critique on the things casual audiences might not like about the show. But it isn't something I'd watch, say, every year. The heart grows stronger in its absence for me here. Thank you everybody so much for watching my review of The Curse of Fatal Death, as we did for the anniversary of its release, as it's hit a big milestone. And it's been a while since I've watched the thing. Probably the last time I saw it was 6, 7, 8 years ago in a McDonald's. No, don't ask for that story. Please like the video if you liked it, comment down below if you wish or have something you want me to check out, and subscribe to the channel, and if you do, ring that notification bell so you're told every single time that I make an upload. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next review. Bye!
Toast. A little piece of toast. Because there's so much to choose from. There's brown bread, white bread, all sorts of wholemeal bread. It comes in funny packages with writing on the side.